Nice to see you all joining from all around the world. Awesome. So my name's Alice, and today we have our webinar on Naibor Camps in the Maasai Mara in Kenya. So just a bit of housekeeping. This will be recorded as always, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. We will also send out a copy of the recording next week, early next week. It is actually a public holiday tomorrow and Friday here in the UK. So after the 5 o'clock webinar, I'll be signing off for 4 days, and then we will send out the follow-up on Monday morning, which should contain everything you need to start selling or continue selling Naibor camps. So Naibor is based in the Maasai Mara Reserve in Kenya. So this is a pretty comprehensive map of Kenya. And as you can see, you've got the Maasai Mara just down here, which borders with the Serengeti in Tanzania. So it's a very large ecosystem there. So Naibor Camp is based in the heart of the reserve, and its closest airstrip is Okiombo airstrip, which is about a 20-minute drive from the camp. And as you can see here, this map details when the migration is happening in Kenya. So the migration happens year round and just depends on where you are between the Serengeti and the Maasai Mara. And in Kenya, in the Maasai Mara, it's sort of there between August and October, and sort of September, early October is considered to be, some of the best times to head down there. So this is quite a simple map of Naibor camps, but it does the job. So Naibor is split into 3 smaller camps. So you've got Naibor Wilderness, which is just here. It's just 3 tents, and it has a private mess area. And it is it's a sort of smaller, operates almost like a private camp quite often. And then you've got main Naibor, which has got 7 main tents and also the spa tent. And then it has a main mess area just here on the bend of the river. And then you've got Little Naibor, which has got 2 of these tents, but they are double. So they have 2 rooms, 2 ensuite rooms under the 1 canvas. So they're really great for families. And Little Naibor make use of the main mess area as well, or they can be completely private within their own little area. And as you can see, they're all sort of based along the Talek River. So Naibor Wilderness is sort of slightly set back, but main Naibor and Little Naibor are kind of based right on the river, and have a lovely view of the water, and the mess area as well kind of sits looking over the river as well. So Naibor Wilderness is slightly more rustic than the other 2 sections of the camp. So it's just these 3 tents. They're lovely big tents. They're very similar. Is sort of the actual tent itself, it's very similar style to that of main Naibor, but the interiors are just slightly more simple. And as I said, they're slightly set back from the river in amongst the trees. The experience at Naibor Wilderness in terms of the food, in terms of the guiding and the staff is the same. The only difference is that it's a slightly more sort of simple in design style. And it has a private mess area, so it is very good for groups. We get a lot of photographic groups or sort of privately guided groups who take Naibor Wilderness, or just those people who want to be staying in the heart of the reserve, but maybe their budget doesn't stretch to main Naibor, so it is a slightly lower price point. We've then also got main Naibor, so that's 7 tents, and as I said, it's located slightly closer to the river, so you've got a lovely view of the river there, and it's all ensuite bathrooms. It's got safari showers, and they actually have now installed running water in the sinks, and flushing toilets. And then Little Naibor is the 2 double tented suites, so it's for 4 packs per under each tent. They can fit a family of 5 in there as well. They can squeeze an extra bed in there. So in terms of location, as I said, it's right in the heart of the reserve. It's on the Talek River, which is plays host to the migration, and some amazing crossing sites are on the Talek River, just really nearby to Naibor Camp. Access is generally via scheduled flights, so it's about 40 minutes from Wilson in Nairobi, and you can drive. The roads are certainly better, I've heard, than they used to be, but it's quite a bumpy ride, so it's about a 6-hour drive. So The flights in Kenya are fantastic. They have really great scheduled flights and generally really good schedules. So it's much easier to fly in. And you fly into Old Kiombo airstrip, and that's about a 20-minute drive, which is a game drive. So it's a drive, you land and you're in the reserve, and it's a game drive into camp. And then in terms of rates, as you can see here, we've just got a sort of very sort of rough estimate of sort of low season, high season. This is sort of a from rate. And as you can see, Naibor Wilderness is the kind of lowest price point. And in terms of activities, so Naibor is, as I said, in the heart of the Maasai Mara Reserve. So it's an incredible game viewing area. So, I mean, the main thing is getting out on game drives and seeing just the vast density of game that there is here. They also can take guests out on walks. So we'll head out to the Conservancy for that. So we go to the Talek Conservancy, which is about a 45-minute drive from the camp. There's also a spa, as I said, there's a little spa tent in camp. And then they can also organize sort of external activities as well. So hot air balloon rides, which you would book in advance of heading out there. So it's definitely one to book in advance. They are very popular. And then also cultural visits as well. So throughout the year, Naibor run their stay pay offers. So they've got the stay for pay 3, which runs throughout the year. And then they've got the 3 for 2, which runs in their low seasons. So main Naibor is 7 of these tented suites. They're lovely big suites. And in the day, it's so lovely having the canvas completely open. It's really beautiful and breezy by the river. And it's just a really lovely big space to hang out in. As you can see, it's this lovely chunky wood, really beautifully designed here. And they are doing a little bit of a soft refurb here at the moment as well, just a few little tweaks. So we're looking forward to seeing a bit of that as well. So as I said, it's set in this beautiful area and amongst the trees overlooking the river. And you've got all the amenities you should need. So you've got flushing toilets, you've got running water in the basins, and it's safari showers, so bucket showers. Now, these are huge. It's very difficult to outstay a bucket shower. They are actually massive, and I would challenge anyone to stay in a bucket shower and wait for the water to run out. So you can see just really beautiful, big tented suite, and that really kind of classic sort of out of Africa style safari tents. And then Little Naibor are these double tented suites. So there's 2 of these. And as I said, they fit sort of family of 5 very comfortably under this one tent. So they're both ensuite rooms. You've got a twin on one side and a double on the other. So parents can have their own room, but they're still in very close proximity to the kids. I know Anita stayed here, and our colleague Catherine as well stayed here, and they've both got 3 kids, and they fitted very comfortably in these suites. And guests can dine privately here. They can have a completely private experience at Little Naibor if they prefer to. They have a private guide and vehicle, and they can dine here and everything. But what we find is guests do tend to like to come up to the main mess area and dine with other guests and hang out there during their sort of downtime, because it is nice quite often to mix in with other guests and hear about their stories and all the rest of it. And they have their own little fire pit area as well, overlooking the river there. So the main mess area is on this sort of bend in the river, and there's a little resident pod of hippos that hang out and grunt all day. And it's just a really lovely space to hang out in. So this deck here is actually being extended at the moment. So they're extending it out. So it's going to be sort of slightly over the river. So it'll be even better view from the deck here. And they're popping a bar in at the end as well, which will just be lovely for sundowners if guests are in camp at that time. And the dining here is all in the evening. It's hosted dining. So guests are all hosted together. Of course, if guests do not want to do that, they do not have to, and we can organize private dining, and they can set up dining in sort of a beautiful location around the camp somewhere. And for lunch, it's more casual dining, so it's sort of buffet style salads. When guests come back from their morning game drive, it's very casual. Take a plate and settle wherever you feel like. And then in the morning for breakfasts, guests tend to have their coffee and a snack at the beginning of the day before they head out. And then they'll have a picnic breakfast while they're out on their game drive. So because you're in the reserve, they can't really set up like bush breakfasts, but they will stop and guests can get out of the vehicle for a short period of time and have a picnic breakfast, which is, yeah, really lovely. So they also have the spa tent, which is located sort of in amongst the main Naibor tents, but this can be used by Little Naibor and Naibor Wilderness as well. And they also offer a complimentary 15-minute shoulder massage for guests on arrival. And very rarely do people then not book a treatment after that. It's very good sales. And then onto Naibor Wilderness. So it's just 3 of these tented suites. So as you can see, they're very similar in their layout to that of main Naibor. You've got your ensuite with flushing toilet, bucket shower, and running water in the sinks. And it's just slightly more simple in design in terms of the interiors. But as you can see, it's a lovely big space. And there's just 3 of these. And then you've got your private mess area as well. So as I said, guests quite often, it'll be a small group that takes this out exclusively, or if it's guests that just don't have the budget to stretch to that of main Naibor, it's a really lovely alternative. And you're getting an almost identical experience, just slightly different in terms of the interior design of the tents. And so Naibor is amazing for families. So as I said, Anita came out here with her family. It was actually in October, just gone. And they had the most amazing time. She was sending photos the whole time. We were just loving getting their updates. And the guides here are amazing with families. So their guide Jackson was sort of teaching them how to use the camera and how to take a really great photo. So he was a brilliant photographer and got amazing photos of them as a family as well. And it is just an amazing experience for kids. So Naibor take kids from 7 and up, which is probably, one of the best sort of ages to take your kids on safari from. It means that they can kind of appreciate it, I think, a little bit more. And so it is just an amazing experience for kids. And there is such a density of game in the Mara that, you're not sort of bumping around in a vehicle kind of looking for animals. They're just everywhere. So kids are never going to get bored while they're out here, and then you can stop for sundowners and things like that, and they're climbing trees and chucking a ball around and things like that. So it is just a really lovely experience for families. And in terms of activities, you're in the Maasai Mara Reserve, so there is so much game and just a huge density of game. So it is just amazing to be out on a game drive here. And because you're in the reserve, it is mostly restricted to game drives. Guests can head out on hot air balloon rides as well. So as I said, you probably try and book this before guests leave for their trip. And Naibor can organise this through their reservations team as well. So with the hot air balloon ride, I've actually not done it. I would love to, but you tend to head out pretty early in the morning. It's a very early start, and they drive them down to where they take off and head out sort of, I think it's from about 5:30, 6 o'clock, maybe even slightly earlier for the hot air balloons. And then they can also take guests walking. So as I said, this is out in the Talek Conservancy they take them to. So you can't walk in the Mara Reserve. So we head out to one of the conservancies, and especially if guests do the kind of 4 for 3, they do tend to want to maybe do a walk. So it's very easily organised and can be organised when they're on site or in advance of them heading out. And actually, Anita, when her and her family were out here, went and visited a village, which can often be quite a sort of touristy experience, I think, especially in Kenya, where they've obviously been hosting tourists for a long time. And Naibor takes their guests to a village that actually a lot of their staff come from. So it's a very personal experience. The staff are kind of, it's their family, it's their friends. So it's a really lovely, very personal experience, and just a very authentic experience, I think, as well. And actually they took some deflated rugby balls with them, which was apparently brilliant. I mean, give kids a ball and, you know, they make friends instantly. So it's a really nice idea, actually. And Anita has kind of said, you know, it's brilliant just taking some deflated footballs or rugby balls if you're going to go and do a visit like this, and it just gets the kids sort of playing all together. It's a really, really lovely part of the experience. And then, of course, it's the Maasai Mara Reserve. The game viewing here is just exceptional. The big cats, you know, there's a huge density of prey, so there is a density of big cats as well. These are all photos taken by our guide, by Naibor's guide Jackson, on Anita's visit in October. So they saw absolutely everything. And then you've obviously got the migration as well, which it's kind of anywhere between sort of July and October in Kenya. Obviously, it's very hard to judge. It's completely natural. It's a natural phenomenon. So you never really know exactly where they're going to be. But I mean, I think when they were there in October, there was still quite a high density of wildebeest around. So it is just an incredible spectacle. And that kind of like late August to early October is a really fantastic time to be there. And as you can see on this map, it is year round, so you can see the migration at almost any time of year, just depending on where you are in either Kenya or Tanzania. So it is just the most incredible spectacle. And there are some amazing crossing sites really close to Naibor, some really famous crossing sites. Now, naturally, the Mara does get very busy at this time of year. It is very well known that it's a very busy reserve, especially during their peak season. And so Naibor is very aware of that, and I'm sure a lot of the camps are, and they try to kind of take the guests off to quieter spots. So maybe there are less wildebeest crossing the river in that spot, but there's also less vehicles. So they do try to ensure that guests, you know, have a really a much quieter experience if they can achieve that. And then, you know, the Mara is absolutely beautiful. The skies here are like nothing else. The altitude does something to the sky, and it's just incredible. And it is just these huge, wide open plains, that really kind of classic safari experience that you think of when you think safari. So in summary, you know, why Naibor? Well, the camp, as I've said a couple of times, is located in a really, really great spot in the sort of heart of the Mara Reserve. You've got kind of accommodation which can suit different budgets, and also you know, different styles of groups, whether it's groups or families or couples, and just really lovely big spacious tents throughout the range of budgets. And then it is just an amazing safari experience. It's that classic safari that you think of, that kind of out of Africa style safari with beautiful, luxurious tented suites and just amazing game viewing, you know, almost completely year round. So if there are any questions, I would love for you to ask them in the Q&A or in the chat box, whichever. So it'd be lovely to answer any of those now while we're live. Of course, you know, if you think of any questions after the fact, you're more than welcome to pop them through via email. Hopefully they've been mostly answered throughout the presentation. And of course, as I said, we will be following up with you with all the information you should need on Naibor Camps. And so you can hopefully find it all. Teresa, thank you. Sounds fantastic for families. What about honeymooners looking for romance? Definitely. So main Naibor is perfect for couples. So obviously I probably touched on families a little bit more due to Anita's recent trip. So sort of drawing from her reference there and sort of her memories, but certainly for honeymooners would be fantastic. So main Naibor has got the, you know, the lovely big tented suites. They're perfect for a couple. And, you know, we get a lot of honeymooners doing that kind of, you know, twin center safari and then beach afterwards quite often. So yeah, would be really fantastic for honeymooners. I know when I was there, certainly I was there in my tent by myself thinking, oh, what a lovely place to bring my partner when, you know, when I eventually can. So yeah, it definitely would be fantastic for honeymooners for sure. Awesome. Now, I don't think we've got any other questions. So hopefully that means I've answered them all, or you're kind of pondering them. But as I said, yeah, please send them through if you have any questions later on. And I will be following up with you first thing on Monday with the recording and anything you might need. Those of you who are in the UK, I hope you have a great long weekend. And we'll see you all next week for our webinar on Santorini, Mozambique, which will be same time next Wednesday. Thank you.